I think this is the last of the bottle. Hello BookTube, I'm Will, I'm the Bald Book Geek, and I'm slowly sinking into this chair because I've had nearly a bottle and a half of wine. How are you? As you know, for the longest time I've been on a massive read of the Witcher books, so I've bounced between them all, between paperback and audiobook format, and I have basically gone into the Witcher series at a massive, whoosh. Now, it was interesting, I was having conversations with some YouTuber friends, and we're talking about The Witcher. What's interesting about it is that if the Witcher books were published now, they probably wouldn't be the same, or published at all. You know, they were originally in Polish, they've been translated, and they're from the mid-80s in Poland, and there's a lot in this universe. It's a big series, and there's a lot that I've missed. I've played the games. I've played the original game on my Mac. Yes, you can play games on the Mac. It was on the App Store for $1.99 on sale. I've played the second game on Xbox, and I played the third game on my Switch. And because I travel a lot, playing it on the Switch is perfect for me. Where do we start? I went into these books, and I've been progressively reading them since the start of the TV series. And the series with Henry Cavill is amazing. And probably in my review of the series, I probably got some info wrong. But, you know, if I had to describe the Witcher series as a whole, games, books, film, games, books... Oh, there was also a Polish film called the Hexer that isn't great, but I have seen it, and it's quite an interesting take on the story. Is that people compared this to the Game of Thrones a lot. And it's really not. There's almost no... Other than some visual cues, because obviously fantasy, medieval fantasy to be precise, based around Europe, there is some visual cues. Other than that, it's really not the Game of Thrones. It's a very different type of fantasy. The book series, the games and everything, it's more like Conan. So if you're aware of the Conan the Barbarian books, but it's also that kind of, it's somewhere between Lord of the Rings, high fantasy, and Conan. And that's just, I don't know how it got done so well, but it's good. I mean, every time Henry Cavill says fuck, I'm like, please. I'm not horny at all, by the way. So when you go into this world, so overall you have a very rich living and breathing world. You've got a lot of characters, you've got a lot of places. Although the stories are very focused, everything going on around the characters feels very fluid. It never feels like it's forced. It never feels like it's happening in the wrong way. It always flows nicely. The action, the characters blend together perfectly, and the character dynamics are fascinating. And that's what I like in this kind of fantasy. You need good characters, and that's where this wins for me. The characters as a whole are amazing, and it's nice to have that. I mean, and they're not too long either. That's been a really pleasant thing. They're great fantasy with a lot going on, but you don't feel like you're bogged down. I mean, I read the whole of the Game of Thrones books so far, and I love them. I mean, to be blunt about it, The Witcher is just... I love Lord of the Rings, I love Tolkien. I'm not a big Sanderson fan, and that's not just to do with the fact that he's a Mormon. I just don't like his writing style. As much as I disagree with his beliefs completely, I don't like his writing style. On the other side of it, I love Brent Weeks and and J. Christoph's Nevernight and stuff like that. And there's been some great fantasy around, I just think it's fantastic. And going into this kind of fantasy, it's quite nice to read fantasy that isn't politicized. Fantasy now, especially YA fantasy, and there's very little YA fantasy I actually like, because most of it ends up just being a shitty love story. There's a lot of copy and pasting and Minecraft skins in YA fantasy that's just really shitty. And it's boring, and I don't really care if there's long forlorn looks and forbidden love. I actually want some story that just doesn't have a fantasy skin on it. That's nice. Although Blood Heir was spectacular. Not the best fantasy novel, but definitely the best YA fantasy I've read in a long time. But on the side of it, back to The Witcher. With The Witcher, you get this really in-depth world that just feels like it's been fleshed out, it's thought about, it's organic. And the stories and the characters bring you in. The Witcher, when you first meet him, doesn't have a huge amount of personality, but that's not a bad thing. He's intentionally left quite blank because of his role. He just travels from town to town killing the bad guy. But there's a lot more to it, and it starts out quite basic in that sense, but suddenly you're pulled into a world and there's wars and there's characters and there's relationships, there's character dynamics, people that don't like each other, people that pretend they like each other. Oh my god, it's fucking book Twitter. The amount of frenemies in this is hilarious. Yeah, book Twitter. But I mean, I just got pulled in. I mean, I've gone between the books and the audiobooks, and the audiobooks are good. Well written, great characters, intriguing characters, and just coming in with like the narration in the audiobooks, because that can make or break an audiobook. But The Witcher just does it so well. Do I recommend you read this series? God, yes. If you love fantasy, read The Witcher. And because most people think of it as a video game, and the video games, to give you a timeline, the series is a direct adaptation. The video games take place long after the books, to give you an idea of the timeline. So there's no and you don't need to play the games or see the series to enjoy the books, and that goes for all of it. It's very separate media, and actually kind of separate universes almost, I think. I'm not completely sure. Just really well done, and I just got pulled in. Like, these characters are amazing, and I really want to read more by this guy. Like, he is good. I did have to laugh when it come to some people. I could tell some people reviewing the books on Goodreads are only aware of the games or the series because of their reviews. It was quite funny. I'm like, oh, you're missing so much here. But yeah, great series, great reading, and I wholeheartedly recommend you read them. And just be ready to get lost in this world and these characters, and just the brilliant absurdity of it all. Like, they are fantastic. And you know what? I'm going to scream it from the rooftops. Read The Witcher and drink more wine. Oh, and yes, this is like glass number. I think this is the last of the bottle. Before I go, I want to say, please comment, tell me what you think, because it's fascinating.